Well, that will do better. Sorry. Everything went crazy. It was time to start. I hit the go button and everything went away on my phone. I had to restart YouTube. I had to. That will do better. Sorry. I had to restart YouTube. I had to find the session, reload it, and fortunately it was there, and then hit go live, and the camera reverted back to the other flip side. And then, yeah, and then the mic, the camera side of the wireless mic turned off. It's crazy, folks. Today is Crazy Thursday, I guess. So let me start over. Danny Thrive, good morning. Tanya Applegate, John, Penny Ponders, Java Mama, Cheryl, good morning. Moni, glad you're there. Mary Taylor, Judy, Arizona. Got a bunch of ya. Okay, we're here. Yeah, technical gremlins. This is, it's been a crazy day. So, good morning. Welcome. We are finishing up, hopefully, chapter 11 of the book of Proverbs. Oh man, yesterday we covered applying wisdom and Proverbs to business and to government. And the next two sections are talking about your neighbors, your community, the people you deal with every day. And then closing with dealing with having wisdom regarding charity, regarding kindness. And Ruth, hi, glad you made it. Slid in the door. Verse 12 picks us up where we left off. He that is void of wisdom despiseth his neighbor, but a man of understanding holdeth his peace. Isn't it interesting how we get into trouble by running our mouth and we avoid trouble by keeping it shut? not by saying something different, but by not saying those things that are hurtful. A talebearer revealeth secrets, but he that is of a faithful spirit concealeth the matter. When I came into a church and they had a deacon board already assembled, I applied a little bit of Sun Tzu, which is to basically test the security of your people that are in leadership. And in a very, very soft test, I met with the board and we talked about, and we explained that, look, what goes on in this board is meant for just this board. We talk about many things, but we don't reveal everything to everybody. So what's discussed here is confidential. We just examine different things, and it's not for public disclosure. So please keep your comments and don't share what goes on in these meetings outside this meeting. And then we talked about what are avenues and directions that we could go with the ministry. Well, the church owned some land across the street, and it was intended always that that's where we're going to build the new church. Well, that had a lot of infrastructure problems over there. You could get power, but sewer connection was not on that side of the street. You would have to tunnel under the street. City water was not on that side of the street. You had to tunnel to get it. Getting utility services over there would be extremely expensive. And at the same time, there were two vacant lots right there adjoining the church that existed, the little building they had, which would connect them to the main street, and all of the services are there, and they already were connected. So I just lofted the idea that let's think this through and see whether or not it's a good idea that what if we sold that property and used that to buy these other two little lots to expand the property we already own and then build the church over here? Man, that leaked out so fast. And you would have thought that I had recommended that we barbecue puppies for a fundraiser. I mean, it was that, how dare you think that we would do such a It wasn't brought up among the deacons. It was brought up among people in the church that should not have ever known about that being discussed. And it told me right away that we had a very insecure leadership board in the church. And I was able to discreetly narrow it down and find and discover who the leaks were, and it was more than one. Then I knew that we couldn't really get much intelligent leadership going on in that church. We certainly could not discuss any moral problems or any kind of sensitive issue within the church, or talking about candidates for different positions or different duties that might have to reveal some areas of sensitivity, because anything that you say is going to get blabbed all the way through the church. We need to have some security, folks. We need to secure our own associations and the people that we discuss sensitive matters with. And that is what is here. The righteous delivereth out of trouble, the wicked cometh. I'm sorry, that's government. I'm sorry. He that is void of wisdom despiseth his neighbor, but a man of understanding holdeth his peace. And those who don't hold their peace usually sow discord. A talebearer revealeth secrets. And that's the problem we had. We had talebearers who were deacons and trustees in the church. But he that is of a faithful spirit concealeth the matter. Where no counsel is, the people fail or fall. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. This is a good thing for us to consider. Before you go doing anything, get some counsel from people you trust, from people who are godly, from people who have a foundation of righteousness. That's where we get our counsel. That's where we get good counsel. Oh, Chris and Nikki, good morning. Glad you made it. Yeah, Deacon Blues. there are a lot of people who want to get on the board of the church just so they can, because they're gossip hounds. They want to know all the dark and dirty that's going on with people, so that basically they're gossips. They want to take it out and spread it, and it is a hotbed of trouble for most churches. And when a church is looking for a new pastor, there are all kinds of ministries which will avail themselves to come in and help guide the church. They will have an interim pastor there, and they will come in and guide the church in correcting problems that may have been the cause of them needing to find a new pastor. Most churches, they think a new pastor is going to fix everything, when the real problem is themselves, and they don't want to fix it. We see it all the time. We see rotten pastors, but we also see rotten boards and rotten controls within the church. Where no counsel is, the people fall, but in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. Get some advice before you do something. He that is surety for a stranger. Now, this is something that ought to guide everything we do. He that is surety for a stranger shall smart for it, and he that hateth suretyship is sure. And this idea of suretyship, the short answer is like co-signing, okay? But it's actually deeper than that. Surety is when you join, it means to be intertwined. And sure enough, when you co-sign for somebody, you are intertwining your credit and your assets with someone else's debt. And that is suretyship. But it's more than that. It goes further to involve being joined in business with someone who is not a believer and not morally guided. And I have seen this thing fail so many times. People had a great purpose to go into business. They were going to join forces with somebody else, and everything was going to work great. I once sold a truck to a guy that was just true blue. I just had the greatest respect for him and the way, I mean, his values and his moral compass was definitely strong. He joined up with, quote, a friend of his, that the two of them would pool their resources to buy this truck, and they were going to flip it, make it, do all of the repairs and work on the truck, and then sell it, and then both would benefit from it. Well, I've known this kid since he was little, and now he's a grown man with children of his own. But he used to fish in my pond, and as a little kid, he came by. I love the neighborhood kids; let them fish all they want. And now he's grown up, and now I'm selling him his truck. Well, he needed. He was going to have to drop the tank in order to get the old fuel out of the tank. And so I loaned him an electric fuel pump with a long hose on it that would suck the tank dry without him having to drop the tank. And I said, but I need it back because I really do need this thing. Well, it went a period of time and I needed it. And so I called him and I said, hey, that fuel pump? I need that thing back. I've got a job I need it for. And he says, I'll get it right over to you. And then he came another day later and he had the fuel pump. And he said, I got to tell you something. He said, I asked my, quote, partner where that pump was. He said he didn't know. He said, it's somewhere. I don't know where it is. And so the guy I knew said, all right, then I'm going to go out and buy a new one because we owe it to Mr. Woods to get him his pump back. And if we can't get him his pump back, we're going to go out and buy one just like it, and we're going to split the cost. And wouldn't you know, that pump showed up about 10 minutes later that they found it. He said, I'm kind of sorry I went in to join forces with this guy. I don't think he's got I don't think he's as honest as he claimed to be. And yeah, you see what I'm saying? You join forces, you commingle yourself and your honor and your integrity with a stranger, someone who does not share those values, with an unbeliever. Maybe an unbeliever has a lot of financial resources to help you in your business, but their moral poverty will drag you down. I have worked for several businesses over the years. Some good, some not so good. You know what was absolutely boilerplate true with every business I've worked with? Those businesses that had a moral compass that just did what was right, even if it cost them, they were a joy to work with. Those businesses that did not, that basically you can't work for them without knowing that they're cheating, they're doing things that are not ethical, and it was bitterness to work for them. I mean, I knew of companies that one of the partners' wife loved to go deep sea fishing. So guess what? The company bought an 85-foot massive fishing boat yacht so that they could entertain customers, and they wrote it off as a business expense. But I don't know that a customer ever went out on the thing. But I do know that his wife took it to, can't remember the country, and they flew there, of course, at the company expense, so that she could oversee the complete refit of the boat and in the design and style that she wanted. Well, the other business partner made sure that the company had a turboprop aircraft so that they could fly around and meet their customers and get to places where they didn't have public airports, or they had civil airports but not commercial airports, and it would save time. But that aircraft, including their commercial pilot that they paid full time to be ready whenever they needed it, I only know of one time that they actually flew engineers out to a customer site, a remote customer site. I only know of that happening once. But I know that other partner's children flew on that thing to go to weddings and other events quite often. You know, that kind of stuff, eventually it's going to catch up with you. And eventually there could be a fraud investigation going on. That kind of stuff, it's painful when those things happen and you know that corruption is ruling the place where you work. It would have to be even worse to be a man of integrity and you find that you've joined forces with morally depraved. That has to be pain. That's what surety is. When you are locked in business with someone else, and when that someone else doesn't share your values, they're a stranger to your values, it's going to hurt. We go on a little further to, here it says, a gracious woman retaineth honor, and strong men retain riches. The merciful man doeth good to his own soul, but he that is cruel troubleth his own flesh. The wicked worketh a deceitful work, but to him that soweth righteousness shall be a sure reward. Let me tell you, it's so easy to tell the truth. It takes fewer words to tell truth, to speak truth, than it does to cover up wickedness. As righteousness tendeth to life, so he that pursueth evil pursueth it to his own death. You follow evil, it's going to come back to bite you. Yep. I'm watching the comments go by. Yeah, Tanya, you got it. You get a church that keeps switching pastors, and the problem remains. It wasn't the pastor's problem, was it? And John, there's nothing wrong with having having an airplane and using it, but when you use it and try to write it off as a business expense when you know it isn't, and it's being used for personal, personal use, but writing it off for business, that's tax fraud. Al Capone got nailed for that. Verse 20, they that are of a froward heart are abomination to the Lord. Remember that frowardism is that wrestling. You're taking the standards of God and the righteousness of God, and you're trying to wrangle ways around it. Always looking for the loopholes, always looking for what the most you can get away with. That's frowardism. But such as are upright in their way are his delight. You want to delight God? You want to be pleasing in God's sight? Then it's all about righteousness. Though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. You know, there is a unity among corruptors. There is a whole band of people who will join together to forge their own little corruption and to cover it up and to support it. And and we're seeing it no better example than in our own government. And we know that people get together and they form unities and alliances. And it doesn't matter what the argument is. It doesn't matter how often they're exposed. They still are purposed to do something. It doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong. They have a purpose in doing it, and no matter of exposure, no matter of reason will deter them from their evil. They are motivated to accomplish something evil, and debate isn't going to fix it because they're not open to anything but their own way. Verse 22, man, this is rather than putting the verse up, I did a physical example of this verse. As a jewel of gold in a swine's snout, so is a fair woman which is without discretion. You can't work in a very large company without having some, by a photograph, beautiful person who is morally reprehensible. And what I did in our feed store, they had dried pig noses, complete with the whole pig snout. And it looked like a hockey puck, but it was that much of the pig's nose, nostrils and all. And what I did was I went by a yard sale with junk jewelry, and I found an earring, a gold-looking earring, and I punctured it through that a pig's snout. So I had a jewel of gold in a pig's snout, and I set that on my desk. And when that person came in, the person I was in a cubicle with was also a believer. And that person would come in and just start talking and it was so evident that this person needed a crash course in morality and decency. And I would just reach over with my pen or pencil or whatever and tap that pig snout a couple times. And my coworker about lost it, about fell out of his chair laughing. And of course that girl didn't have any idea what was going on, but that's the verse. As a jewel of gold in a swine's snout, so is a fair woman, which is without discretion. And it applies to men too. It's not just, a petrified pig beak. You got it. The desire of the righteous is only good, but the expectation of the wicked is wrath. Those who have expectations of ill-gotten gains, the wicked, well, I'll tell you what your expectation is. It's going to be wrath. Payday's coming. There is that scattereth. Now we're moving on into charity here, because this between 23 and 24 we have a break. There is that scattereth and yet increaseth, and there is that withholdeth more than is meet, but it tendeth to poverty. When we deal with charity, charity shouldn't be greatly withheld. When charity is called for, when charity is necessary, charity should be given out, without regard. We knew of a young girl who we came across early in her life, if you will, and she was moving. She kind of got onto hard times here, and she was moving to another city where she had a job, and she had to give up her little puppy. That little puppy was Roscoe. And this girl, we stayed in contact with. She was going to give us Roscoe. We ended up buying him from her because she needed the money. Well, we kept in contact with her, and she was in really a tough spot. And she asked if she could, we had grown close, asked if she could borrow $50 because she barely had enough to pay her bills and she didn't have enough to buy any groceries. We prayed about it. We talked about it. We ended up sending her $100 and a message that this is not a loan. This is a gift. When you get to the place where you can pay it back, then pay it forward. Find somebody else that needs it and help them. And, that's where charity needs to be. Not looking to get it back, but looking to just keep it going. And whether she ever did that or not, I don't know. But my heart was clean. My heart was good with it. The liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered also himself. So if I have a problem of being overweight, it's because I have a liberal soul. You can take that to the bank, right? Oh, was that the cat looking for a fly? I thought it was the dog. Verse 26, and here we go. Here, he that withholdeth corn, the people shall curse him, but blessing shall be upon the head of him that selleth it. When people are hungry, they need a source. And if they know you have something and you're withholding it and they need it and they need it, yeah, that's a fast way to get to the bottom of the popularity poll. He that diligently seeketh good procureth favor, but he that seeketh mischief, it shall come unto him. You look to cause trouble, you're going to get trouble. He that trusteth in his riches shall fall, but the righteous shall flourish as a branch. He that troubleth his own house shall inherit the wind, and the fool shall be the servant to the wise of heart. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that winneth souls is wise. Behold, the righteous shall be recompensed in the earth, much more than the wicked and the sinner. God blesses righteousness. God loves integrity and loves honesty and generosity. Wasn't God generous in forgiving us our sins? Yeah, I hope so. God didn't forgive most of them. God didn't say, okay, I'm going to take you up to the point where you just got a little bit to pay off. No. God forgave us all. God paid for all of our unrighteousness. Not only all that we had done, but even that which would be done in the future. And there are people who say, no, Jesus saves you right up to the point where you get saved, and then after that you gotta earn your righteousness. Well, I wasn't born when Jesus died. And all of my unrighteousness that I did in the flesh before I received Christ, Jesus paid for on the cross back then, before I even did it. So the blood on the cross pays for future sin as well, because my sins that were paid for on the cross, Jesus paid for before I was even known. I was known to God, but before my parents were even born. And so my sin was paid for future tense by the manifold blessings of God and the abundance of his mercy and grace. So when I am showing mercy to those in need, that's the kind of mercy I need to do. Now, at the same time, we don't need to be fools with just throwing money out there without regard. There are frauds out there, and they will seek to steal mercies and the kindness of others, and basically they're stealing it from those who need it. And I'm sorry, I don't throw money at people sitting there with a cardboard sign, because it's almost assuredly a fraud, and that's a real deal. Anyone that I've confronted and asked and investigated at all, they've been frauds. Some of them notorious frauds. Typically, those who claim to be a veteran are almost always a fraud. If someone was in need and a veteran, there are so many outlets and avenues that will help that person, but they have to be able to validate that they're a veteran, and they can't do that. So they get a cardboard sign and a crayon and make themselves up a note that's a lie. Yeah, it's not. You're not helping them by helping them in that regard. And I've come across guys at Walmart that said, I can't find a job. And I said, hey, I've got the job for you. The company I work with has an opening right now for a dozen of these. You don't have to have any skills. You just have to show up, and you can get this job, and it'll be a start. And all of a sudden he's looking down, and I says, let me guess. Your problem is you can't pass the drug test. And that's when they turn and walk away, because they don't want the money they don't want a job. They just want the money to buy drugs. And that's not helping them just to help them get the next overdose. We need to be wise, but when we find those who are in need, we need to be generous. We need to give of a clean heart. And this is the wisdom and understanding that Proverbs teaches us. So tomorrow, we'll see what happens. We will be leaving this weekend and going to meet our boat and our kids and grandkids. So Lord willing, we will be back after next week, because next week we'll be basking in the sun, and we'll see how it works. This is an enormous big boat, so I don't look for it to be rolling and pitching, but we'll see. We have people who are going to be staying here at the farm and taking care of things, and lots of traffic. It'll be busier than when we live here. So we will see you again and catch you tomorrow with Brad at least. God bless you all. Bye-bye.